morning, everyone. This week we're going to talk about lunges. So if we're not squatting, lunges is a good thing to be going after, to look at single leg strength. It's one of my personal favorites to see if somebody has a strength indifference or a weakness that we need to be working on. So there's really 3 different cues that I'm going to talk about, or variations and things that we want to look at to make sure that you're lunging correctly so that you're not losing energy in a place that you don't want to. You want to be as strong as you possibly can. So first thing is your knee angle. Are you positioning your knee in a good place? So when you go down into a lunge, you want to make sure that that knee is at least in line with your toes, if not even a little bit outside of your toes. Okay, that's going to help everything stay in the chain, make sure you're energy efficient. If you're coming too far inside of your big toe like that, you're going to put a lot of stress at the knee when you really want that stress to be going through your leg and really predominantly in your hip. 2 other things with angles here is when you get down into that lunge, another thing that I see is people don't have good ankle range of motion, and you see that heel pop up. You want to make sure that heel is staying down, so that's going to depend on how far your knee is tracking forward. Some of us don't have the appropriate ankle range of motion, and your heel starts to pop up. If that is happening, you need to track that knee backwards a little bit and obviously work on your ankle range of motion so you can get in a good position. But again, this is going to put stresses at your knee, not on the muscles that you want it to be. Another thing to think about is the angle of your torso. Okay, so if you're predominantly upright like this, you're going to put yourself in a good place to really work lower leg, but the places you want it to be. If you want to isolate even more heavily to that posterior chain, to more your butt and your hamstring, you're going to see people are going to transition into more of a hinge in that lunge position. The key is you do not want to sacrifice back and good positioning here to get more of a butt workout, if that makes sense. So if you're in a good place here and you can maintain a good angle, fine. If you want more of a hip dominant lunge, you've got to get a little bit more forward, but again, don't sacrifice positioning by falling into kind of that flexion or bent fault, if that makes sense. A couple things that I want to talk about. So when it comes to lunging and pain, I know a lot of people have knee pain with lunges. I almost always program a reverse lunge before we go into a forward lunge, okay? So a reverse lunge is going to help cue you to more of a hip dominant lunge. So when you come backwards, you're already in that perfect angle to get a little bit more glute dominant. It's a little bit easier to fall into position, much easier to keep that knee tracking forward. The thing with a forward lunge is it requires deceleration, which is harder. You have to use those muscles to slow your body weight down. And a lot of times that's where knee pain comes in, as they come into that, and it's accepting that load, and those forces end up at the joint, stressing your knee more than it needs to, versus up in the muscles where you want it to be. So I always like to program reverse first, and then say you've got somebody that you actually want to work on deceleration, you can really get aggressive and work on falling into that lunge so that you're working on accepting load, and then you can again get more power and different things like that. Of course, there's a million different lunge variation, guys. So if you have questions about specific lunges, side lunges, curtsy lunges, deficit lunges, go ahead, throw something in the comments. Let's chat about it. Otherwise, thanks for watching the video. Hope you have a great weekend.